Good morning. The hearing board is in session. Today is Thursday, January 26, 2017. We're meeting in the hearing room at SCAQMD headquarters in Diamond Bar. Time is 9:03 a.m. One change to the calendar today. Tesoro Refining and Marketing Company, case 4982-104, petition for an emergency variance has been taken off calendar. We have one matter to hear today, and that's SCAQMD versus Lopez Energy, LLC, case 4910-3, a petition for an order for abatement. Who is representing the executive officer this morning?
And Sherry Hanizavara on behalf of the executive officer.
We didn't get the first one on the mic. The mic was off.
Daphne Sue with the district.
And the spelling of your last name?
HSU.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And representing Lopez?
My name is Donald Ross, Mr. Chairman.
Normal spelling of Ross?
I'm sorry, R-O-S-S.
Thank you. Okay, those who will be testifying in this matter, please rise to be sworn in. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Opening, Ms. Sue.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. We're here today for a stipulated proposed order of abatement. Lopez is a landfill gas facility. It uses landfill gas to produce electrical power. It is based in Silmar, California. Beginning January 1st, 2017, Lopez was subject to more stringent nitrogen oxides emissions limits pursuant to Rule 1110.2. In order to meet this limit, Lopez must modify its equipment. It received its Title V permit on January 17th, 2017. The district at Lopez has agreed to a proposed order setting forth an installation schedule and also testing and sampling of its emissions. We therefore request that the board enter the stipulated proposed order, and I know this morning you received an updated proposed order. There were some minor typos that have been fixed. Today we have Mr. Ray Ranquillo as a witness for the district, and he will be talking about the rule, the violations, and also some of the conditions in the proposed order. And I believe that the respondent has also brought a witness as well.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, opening.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having us here this morning. I'm Donald Ross from the Fortistar Methane Group with the parent company of Lopez. With me this morning are Alan Hunt, our Senior Director of Fortistar Methane Group, which is the parent company of Lopez, and also Suparna Chakwadar, who is the Vice President of Fortistar Methane Group, handling environmental health and safety issues. As Ms. Sue stated, obviously we've come to an agreement on the terms and conditions of a stipulated order of abatement. We look forward to bringing the facility into compliance with Rule 11.2. We appreciate the efforts and hard work that the district staff and district counsel's office showed in working with us, and we look forward to continuing to work together with the district in the future. Obviously, we have many sites in California. We have 10 sites of our 26 total, and we also have 3 within the district. So obviously it's in our best interest to continue to work together with you and to find the best solutions to compliance with not only 1110.2 but all the other rules and regulations. So thank you.
Thank you. We have a number of exhibits. Let's mark them at this point. This morning, Ms. Sue distributed a revised proposed stipulated order, and so we'll mark that as petitioner's exhibit number 1. We also have from the district a number of other, documents. We have a multi-page document titled Lopez 15-Minute SEMS Readings, and that'll be marked Exhibit Number 2. We have a single-page document, it's titled Table 310, Compliance Test Data Summary. That'll be marked as Exhibit 3 for petitioner. We have a SEMS hourly data, 2-page document. That'll be Exhibit 4. And finally, I believe this is also from the district. It's a diagram. Is that also? Okay. It's a diagram on titled Lopez Canyon Landfill, Treated Landfill Gas and Engine Exhaust, and that'll be Exhibit Number 5. Respondent has provided us with a, what appears to be a timeline. It's titled Gas Conditioning System and Selective Catalytic Reduction, and that'll be marked Exhibit A for Respondent. Ms. Sue, you may proceed with your first witness.
Thank you. Mr. Ronquillo, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Ray Ronquillo, Ronquillo.
And did you take the oath this morning?
Yes, I did.
What is your title here at this district?
I'm an air quality engineer for the district,
And how long have you worked in this position?
16 years.
And could you please briefly describe your responsibilities?
Our responsibility would be to evaluate permit applications for permits to operate or construct for the district, and to ensure that they comply with the air quality rules and regulations.
And are you familiar with the respondent here today, Lopez?
Yes, I am.
And how did you become familiar with the respondent?
I was assigned to evaluate 5 applications for Lopez Energy, LLC. The project involved modification of an internal combustion engine by the addition of post-combustion control. It also involved the application for construction of a landfill gas treatment system. Post-combustion control included a selective catalyst reduction with oxidation catalyst, and the other peripheral equipment, including a urea storage tank.
Okay, and just generally, what type of facility is Lopez?
Lopez is a gas-to-energy facility. They basically take landfill gas from an adjacent Lopez Canyon landfill, process the gas, and then burn it in what was 2 IC engines, but as of the 1st of January, it's 1 IC engine converted to energy by running a generator.
Great, thank you. And are you familiar with District Rule 1110.2?
Yes, I am.
And could you briefly describe, well, first let's go, does District Rule 1110.2 apply to Lopez?
Yes, it does.
And what does the rule require of Lopez effective January 1st, 2017?
Effective January 1st of 2017, Lopez was subject to emission standards based on Table 3B of the said rule. Since they're burning landfill gas, they're required to meet NOx standard of 11 ppm, VOC standard of 30 ppm, and carbon monoxide standard of 250 ppm. That's corrected to 15% oxygen.
And has Lopez exceeded any of those levels?
At this time, they are in exceedance of those levels without the proper post-combustion control installed.
Okay. And let's take a look at Exhibit Number 2, which I believe you have in front of you.
Yes.
This is the document that's titled Lopez 15-Minute SEMS Readings. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And where is this document from?
This is basically a report that's taken out of the continuous emissions monitoring system that MM Lopez operates, and it is a record of all 15-minute readings, NOx readings, starting from the 1st of this year, January 1st, 2017, up to the end of last week, which was the 22nd of January 2017.
And what does the column entitled O2 mean?
Okay, the second column from the left, which says, indicates the oxygen level at the exhaust of the SCR, no, not the SCR, because it doesn't have an SCR yet, but at the exhaust of the engine at the time that the reading was taken.
Okay, and why is it important to know this number?
It's important to know, it gives you an idea of how much oxygen is in the exhaust, and that typically plays into adjustments because the rule states that it has to be corrected to 15% oxygen, so you basically use this data to make corrections.
Okay, and then I also see a column that's entitled NOx. Could you please tell us what this
The
shows?
third column from the left is labeled NOx. This is the actual NOx readings from the SIMS unit. I've been informed that these actual readings were already corrected to 15% oxygen. So this is the actual corrected readings taken off the SIMS unit.
And does this document show that MM Lopez is exceeding any of the levels set forth in Rule 1110.2?
Yes, the current limit as of the 1st of January is 11 ppm, and all of the numbers show here, they're over 20, 25 ppm.
Great, thank you. And let's now look at Exhibit 3. And this is the document that's labeled Table 3-10 Compliance Test Data Summary, Engine Unit Number 1. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And where did this document come from?
This is basically a report that's submitted by a source testing facility, source testing company. In addition to the SIMS readings that were taken off the SIMS unit, MM Lopez is also required to do some compliance tests on the engine by actually doing a source test. And this is a source test that was conducted on March 10, 2016, and it shows the results of the source tests.
And does this document show the NOx emissions from engine number 1?
Yes, it does.
And what are the emissions levels?
As we can see from this report here, under nitrogen oxides, ppm at 15% oxygen, 3 readings were taken, one for minimum load, the normal load or mid load, and the maximum or normal load. The maximum load showing 31.1 ppm corrected to 15% oxygen. Minimum load 28.1 and 29.0 for mid load.
And this document is from March 10, 2016. Do you believe that similar emissions levels for 2017 would be occurring?
There is a possibility that it would, without post-combustion control installed, then it is reasonable to assume that the numbers will be pretty close to what the previous source test numbers were.
So based on this document, do you believe that MM Lopez is exceeding the NOx levels as set forth in Rule 1110.2?
Yes.
Now let's discuss the stipulated proposed order. If you could take a look at that. That's been marked as Exhibit 1. Let me hand you the revised one. This is Exhibit 1. And let's go over some of the conditions in the proposed order. If you're referring to page 5, condition number 1, has MM Lopez ceased operating engine number 2 to your knowledge?
We have received information that the MM Lopez has ceased operation of engine number 2.
What information leads you to this
We
belief?
have one of our compliance inspectors that actually came out to the facility and noted that the gas line to the engine has been tagged off, and I believe some of the controls might have been also put it out of service.
Great, and also let's now turn to Exhibit 4. It's the document that's labeled Sims Hourly Data Summary. It has 2 columns labeled Engine 1 and Engine 2. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And do you know where this data comes from?
It also comes from the same continuous emissions monitoring unit that's monitoring emissions of the engines.
And what does the data for engine number 2 show?
It's showing zeros, indicating that the engine is not in operation.
Okay, and now let's go back to the proposed order, Exhibit number 1. And let's look at page 5, condition number 2 of the proposed order. And I think you previously testified that MM Lopez is seeking to install and start up certain equipment, is that correct?
Yes.
And what equipment is MM Lopez seeking to install?
They basically will be installing a series of equipment. One would be the post-combustion emission control system, which consists of a selective catalytic reduction unit and also an oxidation unit that's currently being processed, or was processed under application number 580233. In support of the SCR unit, they also installed a storage, aqueous urea storage tank, which basically supplies urea to the SCR system, and that was processed under application number 580234. They were going to install the thermal oxidizer, which basically burns off gases from a landfill gas treatment system, and that was processed under application number 580235, and of course the landfill gas treatment system, which basically will treat the landfill gas and remove siloxane compounds and hydrogen sulfide compounds from the gas, and that was processed under application number 580238.
Great, and let's look at Exhibit 5. And it's the document entitled Lopez Canyon Landfill, Treated Landfill Gas and Engine Exhaust Process Flow. And have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And is this an accurate representation of the current and proposed process at the facility?
Yes, it is. Yes.
This might be helpful for everyone. Could you please describe the process flow as shown in this diagram?
Okay. Should we project or?
Everyone has copies,
Oh, you
or if there's a way to project.
Would it help if we project?
Do we know how to set it up?
You know that?
Make sure that mic is on.
Thank you. So essentially, this is the subject engine that's subject to the discussions here. Currently, the engine does not have any emission control, which basically means it burns landfill gas after you remove some of the contaminants and moisture, and then burns it directly. So the series of applications that were submitted by MM Lopez would now include post-combustion control, which basically consists of our selective catalytic reduction unit and oxidation unit. So what the SCR system and the oxidation system would do is the SCR it's called selective catalytic for a reason, because it selectively reduces nitrogen oxides. So it does that by injection of urea, which is shown here. Urea is basically first volatilized into ammonia, and it's actually ammonia that's injected into this mixing chamber, which then the SCR uses to oxidize the NOx into N2 and water, basically. So that's how it reduces the NOx emissions. The oxidation catalyst is basically used to reduce carbon monoxide and reactive organics emissions. But before you can actually make this system work, is you have to be treating the gas, take out all the contaminants, which includes siloxanes, hydrogen sulfide, some moistures, CO2, and you do that by treating it in a landfill gas treatment system. And this basically, there's two systems shown here. The siloxane removal and carbon polishing unit basically consists of the landfill gas treatment system. So the landfill gas coming from the adjacent landfill is first compressed. Then it's run through a siloxane removal system, which basically absorbs any silico-organic compounds that are actually in the landfill gas. Silicon organic compounds can be found in a lot of different products that we use every day, including shampoo, toothpaste, and things like that. And that normally comes out in the landfill gas. So that has to be taken out. The reason is it would easily foul the selective catalytic reduction unit if it's not taken out. So typically, a siloxane removal unit can be as effective as 95% to 99%. Depends on the efficiency. And whatever the air that's processed, or the gas that's processed through the siloxane unit then goes to a carbon polishing unit, which basically sort of polishes it off and takes out any other contaminants that might remain in the gas, including H2S in this case, before it's sent to the engine. Now, the media used for the siloxane removal unit is regenerable. The reason for that is these are typically pretty expensive media, and if you're not able to regenerate the media, it becomes pretty expensive to replace it constantly. So this is basically a regenerable unit, which means that you can actually apply heat to the media to take out the siloxane compounds. And that way you can reuse the media eventually. But in the process of applying heat to the media in the siloxane removal unit, you could actually release some ROGs that might be in the media. And that is the reason why it's important to have a thermal oxidizer in this unit. So that's the purpose of the thermal oxidizer, is basically to burn any what we call regen gas, or sometimes called off gas, coming out of the siloxane unit. So at the tail end of the entire system here, they have a SIMS monitoring unit, and this is where we're getting all those emissions data that you're looking at in your exhibits. There's also a supplemental feedback system that dictates to the pumping unit here how much urea to actually inject into the mixing chamber.
Great, thank you. We're going to talk a little bit, sorry.
Then one clarifying question. The siloxanes that might off-gas when it's regenerated, the siloxane removal system, is that a closed system where it then goes through and it's recorded at the SEMS, or is it off-gas?
It's actually closed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. We're going to talk more about the conditions in the proposed order, but you may want to continue standing there because you may want to refer to the diagram further. I'll hand this to you. This is the proposed order. So turning to condition 6 of the proposed order, it requires Lopez to report progress of installation, provide gas sampling and lab results to the district. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the general purpose of Lopez providing these gas samples and gas sampling and lab results to the district?
Okay. Initially, we wanted sort of like a more or less a parallel type system to really measure the efficiency of the siloxane removal system. If you look at condition, let's see here.
We could go through each of the
Oh, you will.
subsections.
Okay.
So like,
So basically, what 6B requires is that they take manually take samples of the landfill gas treatment system. The samples will be taken at the input and at the output of the system. So basically, that will show us how effective the system is. So you know how much is coming in, and then you get an idea of how much came out, and therefore you get an efficiency.
so I know that subsection 6 of condition 6 refers to Exhibit A. Do you want to go through paragraph 7 of Exhibit A of the proposed order? It's, Exhibit A is attached to, maybe it's, sorry, it's in the old, my apologies, it was, Exhibit A is part of the original proposed order that was filed on Tuesday. So if you could look at that, Exhibit A.
So Exhibit A, that's condition number 7. I believe this is the landfill gas treatment system. Basically, reiterates what I just mentioned earlier, and that is the requirement to take gas samples at the inlet and outlet of the landfill gas treatment system.
Ray, could you pause from, I think they're trying to locate Exhibit A of the original. Does all the hearing board members have that?
Excuse me. We have two Exhibit As. We have the
Oh, I'm
Exhibit-
sorry, it's
okay.
Exhibit A
to the petition.
to the proposed stipulated order that was filed on Tuesday.
Proposed order.
Apologies.
Okay. For future, if you would identify yours as, with numbers, it would help. This way,
Okay.
for example, I would have identified the proposed order as Exhibit 1 as I did, and then any exhibit in the proposed order would have been 2, 3, 4. So it keeps things straight.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. I'll know that for
Thank
next
you.
time. Great, go ahead, Ray. Thank you. So we're talking about the attachment to the proposed order, paragraph 7.
Which is condition 7. Right. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, so this basically reiterates what I said earlier. We're requiring them to take gas samples at the inlet and outlet of the landfill gas treatment system, and also at the outlet of the regeneration of gas line. The purpose of this is actually twofold, and this will become obvious when you look at ABC under this particular condition. The A is for us to measure exactly how much siloxanes were taken out of the gas. And as I mentioned earlier, inlet and outlet will give you a measure of how much is coming in, and then an outlet gives you how much came out, so therefore it gives you an idea of how much was processed or taken out of the gas. The total non-methane organic compounds, in systems like this, we're typically not very sure exactly how much non-methane organic compounds we're going to get, and that's a purpose for requiring this to give us an idea of what those numbers are. And in the same manner as we wanted to know how much siloxanes was taken out, we also want to know how much hydrogen sulfide was taken out, so that is the intent for 7C.
Thank you, Mr. Ronquillo. And turning back to the body of the proposed order, condition 6, subsection C, could you please tell us the purpose, and I know you may have touched upon this already, the purpose of the readings from the continuous siloxane monitor?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
So in condition 6, subsection C, it talks about the readings from a continuous siloxane monitor used to monitor the treatment system. Could you please tell us the purpose of the monitoring? It's on page 6.
Yes. Condition,
6, subsection C.
it's faded. Okay, condition 6 of the proposed conditions.
Yes, and subsection C, it talks about
Section
the
C, okay.
conditional.
Actually, in addition to the manual reading, they have actually installed a continuous siloxane monitor. So that's the purpose of that is basically to be able to therefore compare and see how close really are we as far as the continuous monitor is concerned. And the field instrument reading are the actual gas samples that we talked about earlier. And then we have the continuous siloxane monitors that's used to monitor the treatment system.
And then for sections 6D of the proposed order, the comparison to laboratory analysis, field instrument readings, and predicted results of the landfill gas treatment system. Could you tell us the purpose of that condition?
Okay, again, as I indicated earlier, it's for us to be able to compare what the actual field numbers are against what's actually showing in the monitors.
Thank you. And for conditions 7 and 8 of the proposed order, it requires Lopez to monitor operations of engine number 1 and certain excess emissions, if any, correct?
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you. No further questions from the district at this time.
Mr. Ross, any questions for Mr. Ronquillo?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Board members? Ms. Prusak?
I have questions based on what I read in the papers and what I'm seeing in the documents today. Are there any expected CO or VOC excess emissions?
Based on the test results that we've seen in the source tests, we don't expect excess emissions based on the current limits. We do expect excess emissions for NOx.
And that's based on, in particular, Exhibit 3, which is the compliance test data summary from March of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. And so can you explain for me, on page 7 of the proposed order, what is the purpose of condition 8 with regard to CO and VOC? Is that going to be, it seems that that's a requirement to calculate based on the hours of usage each day, excess CO and VOC. Can you,
That's right.
can you explain why that is in there? And-
Essentially, what we want to do is to get an idea of how much emissions will be emitted during the time that the engine is operating without control. So, so this will give us a comparison between what's actually required under the rule and then what the actual emissions will be.
Okay. It says that it's daily excess emissions. Is that correct then for CO and VOC? I'm still confused over whether this is excess, whether there are excess of CO and VOC or not, and where these numbers come from.
Yes. Our purpose for 8B and C is basically just assess how much CO and VOC emissions are being produced during that period, but the excess emissions are basically for NOx.
Okay, so that would have to be clarified, I assume. But also, so where does the number, for example, 4.67 pounds per hour of CO come from? Looking, for example, at exhibit number 3, and based on that past data, it was for CO 12.98.
These numbers were not based on the actual source test. This was based on the permit evaluation as presented at the time that the engine was permitted. So there's typically a difference between the two because the numbers that were normally presented during permit evaluation could be maximum emission numbers, okay, which could be different from what the actual tested numbers are, as you see here. So you would normally see this as higher numbers than.
You're saying condition 8, that number 4.67 should be higher based on permit value?
Yes, those are all based on emission factors that were presented during the permit evaluation. So this could be potentially the maximum emissions that the engine could actually emit.
Then
So that could be different from what the actual source test numbers are.
Then I remain confused because they're much lower than what I'm seeing from, am I missing something? Because I'm looking at Exhibit 3 and CO is written as 12.98
Correct.
pounds per hour, and this is 4.67 pounds per hour.
Oh, wait a second. Yeah. We have to examine the evaluation here. I see the point that is lower than what's showing in the source test. Yes.
Okay, so do you want, at some point, to take some time to
Yes,
figure that
we
out?
have to
and then
examine
explain
why the numbers are 4.67.
that? Okay, so we'll put that aside for a moment.
Yes.
Okay, my other question, conditions 3 and 4, so they are on page 6. They refer to, these are increments of progress with regard to, I'm assuming, the installation. They use the word construction to say commencement of construction and completion of construction. Is that installation and not construction? I see the word installation used, for example, in condition 6, when reporting on the status of delivery, installation, and startup, and in condition 2, regarding the requirement of expediting delivery, installation, and startup. Yet I see the word construction used in 3 and 4, and I want to be precise because I understand that some pieces of equipment need to be constructed prior to delivery, but yet installed on the premises. So I want to make sure that this is for installation, is it?
Essentially, they sort of go hand in hand because, as you indicated, there's certain things that sometimes needs to be prepared first before I can actually install the equipment. For example, you might need some concrete pads or something where to put the system that's going to be installed, and those that accounts for the difference in the terminology.
Precisely my point. So my question is the installation that you seek to require occur or begin or commence no later than 5 days of receipt of the approved Title V permit revision?
Installation of the equipment.
Installation. So that word should be installation and not construction, is that? We need to clarify that. Same as in condition 4, whether it's the installation that needs to be completed by May 19th, 2017, or is it the installation?
I'd like to defer the question to my colleague, senior engineer.
I will hold a question then. And when I ask that question, I'm also going to ask what is meant by commencement, and is it commencement of all parts A through D of condition 2, or is it just part of the project, or what that means, so we can be more precise. I also am wondering if you know, and if you know, please answer. If not, that's fine. But looking on Exhibit A, the timeline, the expected date of the AQMD permit approval was expected on January 9th. Did that occur, do you know?
That refers to the 45-day review period that ended on January 9th.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. And January 9th, I believe, fell on a Monday. So as soon as the 45-day period had transpired, then we processed the permit the following day, which is the 10th, and released it on the 11th.
Okay, so, and I'll hold this question if I need to, but my question will then be, condition 3 of commencement of construction or installation within 5 days of receipt of the approved Title V permit revision, that should already have occurred, correct? Okay, so we'll have to account for that. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Ms. Byrd?
Excuse me, I had similar questions, but I believe in the opening, Ms. Sue gave a date of 1/17/17 that I wrote here, and I believe that's when the Title V permit was received.
I believe that's the date that the facility received the Title V permit that accounted for mailing time.
Okay, so they received the permit that you referred to that was issued on 1/10
Correct.
was received by the facility on 1/17.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Doctor?
I was trying to write down as quickly as you were talking, not that you were talking quickly, it's because I'm slow. But can you just quickly tell me the siloxane removal process, which you said the efficiency was between 95 and 99%, is that correct? Is that measuring the materials going in and at the end of the carbon polish?
That would be measuring what's coming
Here,
in
yes.
here, and then
And-
measuring it out.
Okay. Second question is, I was trying to write down about the removal of the materials from siloxane. Could you just quickly recite those?
Basically, the siloxane removal system consists of media that's actually able to absorb all silicon compounds that are present in the landfill gas as it comes in. And that's the absorption process. And then, and as I said, it could absorb siloxane compounds as sufficient as 95 to 99%. It depends on the unit. And then the rest of it is polished in the carbon polisher. It's termed carbon polisher because it uses activated carbon to basically absorb any other remaining contaminants that might be in the gas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How is the carbon reactivated in the carbon polisher? Is that also, does that also go through the system that reactivates the siloxane removal?
On the carbon polisher?
Yeah.
Is the question, is it regenerable, basically? No, not the carbon polisher.
So they replace it on a
They
regular
replace
schedule,
it,
and that schedule is prescribed in the permit?
Yes.
Ms. Prusak asked about the difference between the numbers in Exhibit 3 and the numbers in Exhibit 1, Condition 8. That's my understanding that in Exhibit 3, those values are the actual measured values.
Correct.
Okay. And that includes the amount allowed plus excess.
Chairman, we can introduce another witness who can respond to these questions, if
Okay.
that's okay. This is Angela Shibata. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Angela Shibata. It is spelled Angela Shibata.
And have you taken the oath this morning?
Yes, I have.
Can you please state your title here at the district?
It is Senior Air Quality Engineer.
And then if the chairman can please repeat the question, Angela will respond.
Yeah. The values shown for NOx and CO in Exhibit 3 are the actual measured values.
In Exhibit 3, the source tested values are the measured values during the compliance source test for the engine, yes.
Okay. And it's the total, which includes the amount allowed plus the excess.
It is the total emissions. Since we believe that CO and VOC will be in compliance with the existing limits as of January 1st, it doesn't really represent excess. It represents what was source tested at that time. Now, the discrepancy between condition 8 and the source test, when we evaluate equipment and estimate the emission calculations for that equipment, there are always variables in play. So for example, if we estimate a certain flow rate exhaust coming from the engine and a concentration, you'll have a certain value. But if that flow rate is actually higher than what we would expect, we are underrepresenting the value. So it doesn't mean that the engine is necessarily out of compliance with the CO or VOC limits, but condition 8 is indicating the evaluated emissions for that engine per the engineering evaluation. So there could be a discrepancy between the CO and VOC and a source tested emission
And
value.
those numbers are for the purpose of calculating the excess, not the total.
Correct. So typically when we indicate the emissions for a piece of equipment that is out of compliance, the emissions from that equipment are considered in excess. That's my interpretation. So if we want to look at a specific, which specific pollutants are non-compliant values, we would only be looking at the NOx emission.
Okay. Does that clarify it?
No. Well, they're considered excess because they're just not in compliance with the rule for NOx. So all emissions are considered excess, even if they're not in excess of what's allowed for CO and
Correct.
VOC?
Correct. So if there was a I want to say furthermore, if they did a source test, let's say during this period, and it was less than the emission limit value, we would still consider, not knowing that a source test had been done, we would consider a certain excess emissions over the duration of the period.
So in your opinion, the word excess as used in condition 8 is correctly used for all the pollutants listed, NOx, CO, and VOC?
That is my belief, yes.
Okay. And I'm just going to try this one more time. Maybe it's just because I'm a lawyer and not, not an engineer. Why are the values for CO and VOC so much lower in condition 8 than they are in the actual testing from Exhibit 3?
I'm going to defer to my
I
colleagues.
have to apologize. Now I remember where these numbers came from.
Okay, thank you.
These numbers actually represent the difference between what's compliant and non-compliant. And that's why it's smaller. Okay, for example, if you have a CO limit right now of 250 ppm, for example, and whatever that is equivalent in pounds per hour, but then they're emitting, let's say, 300 ppm, and what's the equivalence in pounds per hour, the difference is what you're seeing here.
Now, I would understand that
Yes.
if you gave us values that were actually above 250, but what you're telling us is it's 187.
Right. So what this basically is saying is, again, let me just reiterate that the numbers in number 8 here are deltas, or the difference between compliant
What's
and
allowed
non-compliant.
and what, right, okay, uh-huh.
So what you're actually seeing here in Exhibit 3 are the actual emissions that they have. So it's basically saying that if the limit right now is, for example, as of now, is for CO, for example, is 250 ppm, but right now they're only doing 187 ppm, so that means they're in compliance as far as CO is concerned. But it's NOx that's typically the issue in this case.
Okay, I'm remaining completely confused, because there are CO numbers and VOC numbers, and I still don't know where they come from, but if everyone's comfortable with it, I guess I will drop it. I still had other questions for Ms. Chabada, but I don't know if everybody is finished with Mr. Ronquillo, so.
Any further questions from Mr. Ronquillo? Ms. Byrd?
I just have this, I think I understand.
Yeah.
And I'll just ask this question. So we don't have anything that tells us what the limits are. That's part of the issue right now, right? I mean, the board doesn't. We're looking at number 8, and it says these are excess. We're looking at Exhibit 3, and it says these are actual, but we don't have anything that says what the limit is, right?
Yes.
I mean, the rule, but I
it's
mean,
not
not
the
in front of
data.
us. At least I don't know where it is unless it's in one of the documents that I have. And I think that would have made it clearer to me. So you're telling me, but I don't have it in front of me, right? So what I have in front of me is Exhibit 3 that says, for instance, ppm of carbon monoxide at 15% oxygen at max to normal load is 187, and then it has a limit over here of 256 based on Rule 1303. Is that what I'm seeing, right, on Exhibit 3?
Yes, the current limit.
But this is based on Rule 1303, and we're not here today on 1303, so I don't know if that means it's the same. Is it, what is the limit that in 1110.02, is it the same 256?
Actually, the current limits are shown on the petition, which is Exhibit 1,
Exhibit 1.
I believe, and that would be on, the current limits are page 6.
Page 6.
Page 3, number 6.
Page 3, number 6,
Which
okay.
basically says that the limits are 11 ppm for NOx, VOC at 30, and CO at 250.
Page 3, you said?
Yes, number 6.
Number 6, okay. Okay, I didn't highlight that. Okay, so
But these are the current limits.
those are the
that they're-
current limits. Those are, when you say the current limits as of 1/2017, right?
1/1, yes.
Okay, 1/1/2017.
January 1st, yes.
Okay, so I have 11 ppm, and then over here, and that's for NOx. Let me just go to CO. 250, okay, so that's where the 250 came from. I apologize, I highlight most things, and I didn't highlight that one. And so the difference between what we have here on page 7 and number 8 on CO, for instance, means that they could not exceed 254.67. I mean, this is, if I added the two together, right, it would be 254.67. Those are the rates.
Actually.
So at 254.67 is when they would be recording?
No.
Because it says
the-
excess.
The limit is actually in parts per million. What
Oh,
we're
okay, I'm
looking at
sorry.
under
I'm looking at
number 8 is in
pounds per
pounds per
hour.
hour.
I'm
so
sorry.
There is a difference, yes.
Okay.
So it's not additive in this case, yes.
Okay, so if it's, let me go back to that page. So how, excuse me, I have no voice today.
That's fine. That's the max it could be.
Okay, so I'm going to take a minute and just go back to what my question was, because now I've gotten it turned around again.
Ms. Present.
I guess where my confusion comes from is that, as I'm understanding it, there are two ways to consider excess emissions. Either one, you assume that everything after a certain date is excess, which would mean it's 250 for CO. It would be 250 parts per million as a pounds per day number. That's not what we see here. Or if they're above the 250 and excess is just what's above and the difference between the delta and the difference between the two, then you would see that, but they're not above, they're below. So that's why I'm extremely confused, and I don't see where the excess emission, what's being considered to be excess, and where that 4.67 pounds per hour comes from, and similarly with VOC.
I see.
Okay, we've had a moment to discuss, and I believe Angela can respond to this question.
First, I want to say I'm sorry for making the matter more confusing. I think I confused myself in the process. So let's go back to the I think Exhibit 1, the revised stipulated order for abatement, page 2, under findings of fact, item 5. It indicates the previous emission limits per 1110.2 for this engine. It has NOx at 36 ppm, CO at 2,000 ppm, and VOC at 40 ppm. The current limits are indicated on the next page, number 3, in item 6 of finding of fact, which have NOx at 11, VOC at 30, and CO at 250. So I was incorrect in my previous statement regarding the excess emission calculations. The value in the ordered condition number 8 is the difference between those two limits.
That's right.
Senator?
Is it your expectation with the revised design of this engine that they will meet 1110.2?
Our expectations are it will meet,
Have there been any test results?
that will
with this
be,
design configuration?
that's a requirement that they would test the engines.
But to date, that has not been the case.
Not yet, because I believe they're still installing the post-combustion system, control
And
system.
on March 10th, 2016, you have the results here on Exhibit
Yes.
3.
These are the test results without the
Post-test, right.
post-combustion system.
What was the design configuration that produced those test results? Was it this one, the same one?
Would they be following that?
Of the engine?
Yes,
The design configuration was the same
it's the same
at that
engine,
time as it is today.
correct.
And
They're-
why, at that time, it did not meet, the source testing did not meet the conditions set forth in 1110.2, did it?
At that time, they met the numbers, or the limits prior to the limits effective January 1st. So they were in compliance with the previous limits.
So they met,
But the source test did
this
show,
constitutes it meeting the limits, yes or no?
correct. So actually, if you look at the source test here, it would indicate that there will be in non-compliance with the NOx limit.
Right.
For the new limits, yes,
It was non-compliant with the NOx limit.
correct.
So what's been done, has there been any change in the configuration of the engine that now would say you can't meet the NOx?
There will be no change in the configuration of the engine, but with the post-control system installed, we are confident that it would actually meet the 11 ppm limit.
Okay, now there was an amendment to 1110.2 in June of 2016, is that correct? Will that amendment then permit this to be to be in compliance, yes or no?
There were certain provisions that were added to 1110.2, which would actually allow them to file for an alternative compliance plan, to give them more time to actually put the engine in compliance with these limits.
Will there be any design configuration or any changes in the engine that would allow them to meet that lower standard, yes or no?
With just the engine itself, without any post-combustion control, in our opinion, it would not be able to meet that without
Point to the
post-combustion.
diagram to show me why they would not. What was it like before and what is it like now?
Prior to the current project, this particular portion was not there.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. But then, what happened between March 10th and the time this new design configuration of the engine changed?
Ms. Brusek?
I think, Senator, I'm sensing that you are confused by the answers, and if I could just clarify one thing, and then Mr. Ronquillo can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Yes, it is true that in March 10th, and back in March 10th, they had the configuration they have now without this project. They passed because the standards, the emission standards were higher at that time. They are no longer in compliance with NOx as of January 1st, 2017, only because the emission factors have changed and they've gone down. So it's not that they were out of compliance back in March 10th, but that number for NOx is out of compliance as of January 1st because the limits are now lower. So nothing physically has changed. Just I don't know if that clarifies for you, but I sense that maybe that was confusing.
This expectation with the incorporation of this bottom part of the diagram that they could find it to be in compliance. That's what I'm trying to get to. They made some changes. You have not made any, you made changes, yes or no?
They're in the process of making
Yeah,
those.
they're making changes. Well,
That's what this order
That's
is
the
about.
purpose of this order, to require,
I understand, but the purpose, what I'm trying to find out, Mr. Chairman and Prusek, this was first given to me okay, which has a lot of dissertations in here regarding why they were not in compliance, what we require them to do in order to be in compliance. And we set a standard whereby they had to go ahead and get a new engine and try to find one. We gave them examples where to go look to see if they could test those engines and be in compliance. They made an exhaustive effort to do that, and they were unable to do so. They also asked the district to modify the conditions set forth in 1110.2, and that's how we got to where we are today. I'm just trying to see what he knows. I mean, you know what you want to find out, and I know what I want to find out. Thank you very much. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes.
Okay. So, and at one point in time, Mr. Chairman, they talked about demanding reimbursement for the time and effort and money they spent trying to be in compliance, and they was unable to do that because there was no engine on the market that would meet that requirement. Is that correct, sir?
I'm not.
According to what you got right here.
Okay.
That's that's the variance petition that had been filed
Pardon?
with not.
what,
That's the variance petition that was filed, I believe, late last year. So he doesn't have that. We have the findings and decision for the order for abatement. So he may not be able to respond to that particular
that's a
question.
document in a different matter.
I understand. Since 2014, we've had a problem yet to be resolved in meeting the standards set forth in 1110.2. Is that correct? You've been testing, you've been the inspector out there all that time, is that correct? Or you have not?
At that time, the limits for a landfill gas-fired engine were not in effect yet at that time. So we're talking about the current limits,
I understand.
and I think the effective date got pushed back at least one time from 2016 to 2017.
it's important, I think, to note that sometimes the standards are not attainable. And what was in this dissertation was pointed out, they were not attainable. And so sometimes the district they were requesting the district to amend the conditions set forth in 1110.2. And that finally that has happened, I believe. And that's why I'm asking you, how is the configuration of the engine changed in order to meet that condition, if you know it all?
No.
You,
I think he has testified as to what changes
no,
are
he did
being...
not.
Excuse me, I haven't finished.
No, you were testing, I'm
I
asking you.
haven't finished.
I know I haven't either. And I was asking them, what part of this engine changed, which now allow them, giving them opportunity to meet the conditions set forth in 1110.2?
In this particular case, the engine configuration itself will not change. I can't attest to the fact that there's actually a landfill gas-fired engine that can achieve the limits without emission control. But in the case of Lopez, that will be maybe the only alternative will be to add
I didn't hear what you
post-combustion
said.
control.
You said maybe what?
The alternative, that is to add emission control at the exhaust,
And that's what they're in the process of doing.
yes, without changing the actual configuration of the engine.
And then maybe we can hope to meet your test results that you all have been asking for, that you're interested in, and I am too. But carry on.
Any other questions for Mr. Ronquillo? Thank you very much. The board will take a 15-minute recess, reconvene at 25 after.
Good stuff there.
So this is related to the equipment and systems. So that's still delivery, installation, startup of the equipment and systems.
I understand that. That makes sense. All right, so then, so what's the problem?
I don't think there is. I think I can,
Seemed pretty clear to me. I didn't understand.
yeah, I can clarify it pretty quick. But those terms are related to the equipment, construction, covers all those other tasks that have to be done. It's okay. Last time I was here was for that 1110.2 hearing and the Prima thing. They chopped, I came in here with it's like a 3-minute presentation. They chopped it down to a minute. I was nervous.
We are back on the record. Ms. Sue, any other witnesses?
No further witnesses from the district at this time.
Ms. Brussac?
If I could, I thought Ms. Shabata might have had the answers to some of my questions that were not answered, if I could ask them.
Sure.
In particular, if you could clarify in conditions 3 and 4 whether construction is meant or installation is meant, and specifically of what construction or what installation, and whether whether at least 3 has already been satisfied.
I wanted to clarify that construction is an encompassing word that includes installation. So instruction is derived from like a EPA definition that includes prep work for the pad or installation of piping, et cetera, whereas installation is typically used to refer to the placement of the equipment itself. So construction should have commenced no later than 5 days of receipt of the permit, as indicated in number 3, which may not be placement, but it could also include placement.
Okay, and do you know if that's already occurred, since that date should have been, what, January 22nd?
I would defer that to the respondent to indicate whether or not it has transpired.
Okay, and then in number 4, completion of construction, do you mean?
That means that all of the systems are installed, placed, and basically ready to be operated. So all of the construction activities would need to be completed by that date.
And is there a reason why it's left unclear between, for example, condition 4, which says construction needs to be completed, which I think I'm understanding as all-encompassing, including installation, but I want to make sure that is crystal clear to everyone. And 6, for example, which requires the status of delivery and installation and startup, but does not mention the word construction.
Yes, I suppose we could change installation to construction, but the reason for indicating installation, because we want to ensure that the equipment is, brought to the facility as quickly as possible, placed on site as quickly as possible, and as it indicated, and startup of the equipment. So those things may be part of construction.
Okay, so it's your understanding that 4A, completion of construction by no longer than later than May 19th, 2017, means construction and installation?
Yes.
And let me just ask, if I could just ask the respondent, is that the understanding of the respondent as well?
Yes.
That is our understanding.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And I'll ask other questions of you later. One other question, and that is with jurisdiction. And generally speaking, we will have jurisdiction over a matter till a specific date or until final compliance, whichever occurs first. Does the district want that, or does the district want a year regardless of when final compliance occurs?
We could do a final compliance date, that is fine by us. They should be in compliance within a year.
Is there any portion of this that would go beyond the completion of testing? Anything, is that completion of testing, is that final compliance, or final compliance could be past that?
Final compliance is once the system is installed and operated and tested, and we have results that indicate that they're compliant with the emission limits. So it may not potentially end as of June 30th, but if you look to order condition number 5, it indicates that the respondent shall achieve final compliance by July 14th. So that is assuming that we will receive the source test and reporting by that date, indicating compliance with the emission limits.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one
Ms.
follow-up.
Byrd?
And this is minor, it's semantics, but if that's the EPA definition, and I understand why you may use it, but if it's more understandable to someone who were to pick up this order, would you have any problem with it saying construction and installation?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, that was my query also.
Final question.
Senator?
Right. I'm still seeking the clarification. On March 10th, there was a source testing. And a new construction that you put it, or a new configuration, there has not yet been a source testing, is that correct?
That is correct. The modification to the system has yet to be conducted pursuant to the conditions of the order.
To what extent was the system modified, if you know?
The system will be modified, as Ray Ronquillo had indicated, by installing a post-combustion control system, a landfill gas treatment system, and a landfill gas treatment system regeneration control system, which is the thermal oxidizer.
So this system, this diagram shows the modification.
That is the proposed
That
modification, yes.
makes a lot of sense now. Now, my question is then, what's changed, in your opinion, since the first source testing in 2000, March, I think it was, 10, to today, which would give you the expectation, both sides, because you're stipulating to this, the expectation that you would pass the source test and you, once it's fully and be in compliance?
Based on our engineering knowledge, and I would have to defer to the rule writers of this rule.
Based on your what?
Based on our engineering knowledge.
Okay.
And I would also want to defer to rule writers of this rule, which may have information about that, which I do not. We are aware that this kind of control system will demonstrate compliance with these emission limits. And therefore, this applicant in this facility has proposed to install this system accordingly.
So you both stipulate to the fact that you think this would, the expectation would be that you would be in compliance.
That is correct.
That's correct, Senator.
No, and 1110.2, the amendment to 1110.2 also gives an opportunity for compliance to revise the standard, or did it not?
1110.2, I'm not
There's an
familiar.
amendment in June of 2016,
Yes,
which the respondents were asking for.
yes. What's the question? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, would that be a factor in terms of compliance, even with the modification also?
So just to speak to that, the amendment to the rule is the reason why the respondent has to achieve compliance with different emission levels now. So the amendment has more stringent emission requirements, and that's why they're making the changes that they're.
The emission levels change in what direction? Tighter or lower? So it's made it a lot more feasible.
These emission limits have been on the rule in its current form and in previous forms Previous amendments to the rule delayed the compliance deadline from January 1st, 2016 to January 1st, 2017. The most recent amendment to the rule had provided additional compliance options or alternatives, but the limit is still consistent with the last version of the amended rule.
Just to clarify, the alternative compliance, you mean the allowing for consecutive quarter delays based on the compliance plan?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
The amendment to 1110.2 was the one in which they tested under March 10th last year, was September 7th, 2012, right? And there's a recent amendment, was June 3rd, 2016.
That is correct.
What was the purpose of that amendment, and how does it affect the performance of this new engine they're coming up with?
The amended rule doesn't actually affect the performance of the equipment as is. The June 2016 amended rule just provided some additional alternative compliance options, which are not in effect with this facility.
Okay.
Any more questions? No more questions? Thank you. During this hearing, reference has been made to Exhibit A. We have two Exhibit As. So for clarity, what I'm going to do is, if you'll, in the proposed stipulated order that is date stamped January 24th, 2017, I'm going to identify the document that is indicated as Exhibit A. I'm going to give it an exhibit number 6, so when you're referring to that document, that is Exhibit 6. Any other questions? Any other witnesses?
None from the district, but I believe respondent has witnesses.
Can I take a moment? My son's school is calling.
Okay. We're going to take we're going to go off the record for a moment.
I apologize. My child's school does not have a nurse.
We're back on the record. Okay. We had identified Exhibit 6, and district had completed its... Did anybody have any more questions for district witnesses? No? Okay. Mr. Ross, any witnesses?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to bring Alan Hunt to the stand, so to speak, but before I do, I was wondering if maybe the district staff could turn back on the light over the exhibit, I think it's Exhibit 5, that Mr. Ronquillo and Ms. Chapato were using to help explain to you the process. We're good? We'll just keep that up as background here for Mr. Hunt's testimony, and we'll also, of course, be using Exhibit A. Mr. Hunt, could you state your name for the record, please?
Name is Alan Hunt, spelled A-L-L-E-N, last name Hunt, H-U-N-T.
And what's your position with Fortistar Methane Group, the parent of MM Lopez?
Senior Director, and I'm responsible for engineering construction activities for Fortistar Methane.
And how many years of, would you say, professional experience you have working with landfill gas collection, landfill gas to energy facilities?
Over 30 now.
And if you could give me a little more specificity as to your responsibilities as to the particular Lopez project.
Yeah, I'm as being responsible for the engineering construction activities, specifically to Lopez. That included evaluation of the technologies required to retrofit the facility to achieve the new 1110.2 regulations. And that would be inclusive of the gas conditioning system that was purchased and the thermal oxidizer being a part of that, as well as the emissions control equipment on the back end. And that would include the SCR and the oxidation catalyst. And now I oversee our project manager who is responsible for the day-to-day engineering construction activities at the site.
I think it's already been stated before, but I'll just ask you again. Has construction commenced on the Lopez project, the 1110.2 project that we're discussing today?
Yes, it has. We mobilized our contractor actually on the 9th in anticipation of the permit, and which included setting up their trailer and that kind of thing. But we started immediately following that, the day the permit was issued, with saw cutting concrete, and we're at the point now in the project where we've excavated for the equipment pads. The LA inspector was scheduled to be on site yesterday to inspect those excavations, and once that's complete, we will complete with preparing the forms for the pads so that we'll be ready for installation down the road.
And I'm just going to get into a little bit of detail for the members of the board to our Exhibit A. As you can see, it's a chart which Mr. Hunt helped put together at the request of district council and district staff to help ultimately formulate the, obviously for their approval and for the stipulated order of abatement, and ultimately for your approval as well. The third line here on this Exhibit A says, start gas conditioning piping outage. Could you explain what, it helps for all of us. What does it mean exactly when we talk about gas conditioning?
Well, the gas conditioning piece referring back to Exhibit 5 includes the siloxane removal, carbon polish, and the thermal oxidizer portion of the process. Because there's an existing system there, that's an existing gas compressor that's feeding an existing engine, we essentially have to cut into the fuel line so that instead of gas flowing directly to the engine, it will ultimately flow through the new gas treatment system. So starting next Monday, we're taking an outage of the engine, the engine has to shut down. We will sever that pipe and install essentially some valving and some T's in the pipe so that when the gas conditioning system is ready to install, it's a very simple connection. The piping's already in place, and we chose to do it this way because we've got other major maintenance at the site, and it made sense to coordinate the two. But it's to get ready for the ultimate installation of the gas conditioning system.
So when we talk about, these are in essence preliminary activities to what I'll, skip down to the, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line. It says gas conditioning system delivered. What elements will then be delivered to be, in essence, tied into the other elements that you've already laid down since we've commenced construction?
Since we're working on the equipment pads, the concrete pads right now to allow for that delivery. There's a certain amount of cure time required on the concrete before you can actually set the heavy equipment on those pads. And that February 24th date is when the equipment actually arrives at the site. We pick it up with a crane and we set it on the pads.
And then when we go to the sixth line here, it says site construction complete with a date of March 17th of this year. So at that point, just in the spirit of the discussion we were having earlier, we're looking at roughly, I don't know if my math's any good here, but about a 3-week period where those activities you mentioned take place. So at that point, when we say site construction complete, everything will be in place. The gas conditioning system will be on site and installed, and there will be preliminary, is it safe to say that the preliminaries to the installation of the other elements of this project, which of course we'll get to brief in due time here, those will also have been completed by that point in time? Or am I?
No, that is correct. After the equipment's delivered on the 24th, there's still ongoing construction activities that include electrical and piping to enable us to turn on the gas conditioning system. So that's what that date reflects. After March 22nd, we're ready to start. Our equipment provider will arrive at the site, and we will begin commissioning that gas conditioning portion of the project.
So the period between March 22nd and the next line, May 18th, will be, it's roughly about a 8-week period, 7-week period. Will that involve, that's where the testing takes place? Could you give us some flavor of what the testing process will entail? And you can refer to the Exhibit 5 that's up here as well, if needed.
Yes, I'm going to step up here.
Is it all right if he goes and, okay. Sorry.
Okay, mic on?
Is there a button there too? I think there is.
How's that? Okay. So in that March date, all the construction activities will be complete to allow us to start the commissioning activity of this portion of the project. And that's a vendor called Walexa that supplies this equipment. It's probably about, we're anticipating a 1-week commissioning period. And that's all those tasks of checking out instrumentation controls to make sure the system's operating correctly. Once that process is completed, we intend on going through the testing procedure that was outlined by the South Coast Air Quality staff, which includes not only validating results of the online siloxane monitor that's going to go in on that portion of the project, but also just taking and doing that by taking some lab samples of what's coming into the process and what's coming out. We want to make very sure that the equipment is doing what the manufacturer said. There's a performance guarantee issued by the exhaust treatment vendor, which requires those siloxanes to be treated down to 1 part per million. We want to verify that it's there and make sure we don't have any issues. So that's what we're going to be doing during that testing period. Once that testing period's complete, we'll go right into putting the catalyst bed in the SCR that would have already been installed at that point.
So I mean, you've been, obviously been at this game for 30 years. That's an adequate and ideal testing period to ensure that the equipment is operating properly and within the expectations and our legal requirements? Is that
We believe it is. That's 2 months to collect gas samples, have them analyzed, and we believe we'll be able to see some trends. Things we're going to be looking for is making sure that the regenerative period is correct on the siloxane removal system, and trying to get an idea of how the carbon polishing system is going to be loading up over time. So we're going to be trying to make some judgments during that time so that we get a better idea of any adjustments that need to be made to that process to make it work correctly.
And we talk about the SCR, the selective catalytic reduction system, and that's, you know, I guess if we're looking at Exhibit 5, that's the elements of which are on the bottom half, or the bottom half of the diagram. What, just for all of our enlightenment, real quick here, the elements of this, what we'll call the back end system, entail what exactly? We have the SCR itself, correct, and then.
Yeah, in front of the SCR, there's an oxidation catalyst, which is there as a, I think as it's described earlier, but you get some CO benefit from there, but it also oxidizes any remaining VOCs that may have made it past the carbon polishing and may have made it through the engine, and it's there to protect that SCR and the media that's in the SCR. On landfill gas projects, which makes this, I mean, the treatment systems that are on this haven't been in operation that long, so we want to make really sure this thing's working the way it's supposed to before we actually put that SCR bed in the exhaust stream.
And it's really the final element of this chart, Exhibit A, discusses engine stack testing, and I know that that's a topic we've been discussing a bit today in the context of the March 16th test. Could you elaborate a little further on what that process will entail? And
yes, there's actually 2 emission points. I'd probably point out there's the thermal oxidizer. We'll be testing that thermal oxidizer during that test period. Once the SCR gets installed, there'll be a stack test that immediately follows that SCR installation. And we are going to push our stack testing vendor to turn that report around as fast as possible. We believe they can do it in time. But it's just a stack test to confirm that we meet the 1110.2 requirements.
okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Hunt at the moment.
Ms. Sue, questions? Or Ms. Hanavert?
Yep, we have no further questions for this witness.
Okay. Board members? Ms. Byrd?
I just had one for confirmation's sake. I understand you've been doing this for 30 years. The layout that you have here then is based on experience being used in other facilities, or?
There are some out there that are doing this. Definitely, this hasn't been going on for 30 years, but I'd say over the last 2 years, people have been gaining experience on this particular installation. And we've gone to a vendor that we believe has the most experience and the most successful experience in this type of application.
Most successful, and only 2 years, you said, that it's been using this layout?
Putting SCRs on landfill gas-fired engines is a relatively new approach.
But the vendor then has been using SCRs on other applications.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
and people have been putting these gas cleanup systems in for some period of time. So that front-end piece, the siloxane removal, carbon polishing, that's been going on for a while. What's new is putting the SCR on the back of a landfill gas engine.
Okay. And then when you say project complete on Exhibit A, what does that mean? Does that mean all the paperwork has been turned into the district? What does that mean?
Yeah, consistent with what South Coast Air Quality described earlier, that is the date when we would provide a report to them that shows that we have complied with the 1110.2 requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let the, if the district council or staff wants to weigh in, I'm looking at the proposed stipulated order of abatement, and at condition 9, it says that, we have to achieve, well, if we can't achieve final compliance by July 14th, 2017, and of course, we'll be making reports and so on to the district as required in conditions 6 and 7, et cetera. If obviously if we can't meet that time frame, we're going to have to obviously petition to have the order modified, and we'll all be back here again. Ideally, we hope that does not happen, and we are confident that it won't, but you never can be 100% sure. But I'm sorry, go ahead. Given our experience and our confidence in this vendor, I think we certainly believe that July 14th is a reasonable date to make sure the equipment is working properly and will be in compliance, and make sure the whole system is in compliance with the requirements.
Okay, so that's when compliance with 1110.2 is expected, and that is the date that says project complete.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Senator?
Mr. Hunt,
Sir.
gas conditioning system startup complete. The testing, the gas system condition testing complete. You talked about the vendor giving you some guarantees
Yes, sir.
that it would meet the conditions set forth in that equipment.
Correct.
But if it doesn't, do you have a reason to believe that it would not? They're guaranteeing that it will, is that correct?
They guarantee it will. They guarantee the final gas processed by this system will meet the requirements of the SCR vendor.
Design specs of the equipment?
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
But you were reticent in saying that you're going to test, and if it didn't meet that specification set forth by the manufacturer, then what? You make some changes? I mean,
It's possible to make some changes in the way that process runs. I think it's a highly engineered piece of equipment, and we want to be careful and take time to make sure that it's being set up correctly and being operated correctly before we go into long-term operations.
you have some experience, 30 years though, but this has been around a couple of years. What kind of adjustments at all would micro, but be made in order to make sure that it's complying?
Yeah, things we might be doing to that part of the system might be adjustments to the siloxane bed adsorption regeneration time period, and fine-tuning that to make sure they're working optimally. The carbon polish is on the back side of this, so in theory, if that system was even operating poorly, the carbon polish is going to help protect us as well. So there's some level of protection in the system, but what that does impact is if the siloxane removal system is not operating optimally, we've got to change out the carbon more often. And we want to fine-tune that piece of the system so that it's working optimally.
So you're not alarmed, would not be alarmed if it's not working at a particular time, because you can fine-tune it?
Yes, you
will
can.
fine-tune it to make sure that, try and bring it in compliance.
We believe you can.
Okay, fine. That's the first phase of this equipment. That's at the top that you talked about, right?
Yes, sir. That's
Block it out, yeah,
this portion here.
that portion there. Now, the portion on the bottom, is that an alternative?
No, that's what the installation of the SCR and the oxidation catalyst is actually what allows us to achieve the 1110.2 requirements. However, we cannot install that until this piece up here is working
the
It's
way
been
it needs
trued
to.
out, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in order to be able to modify the configuration of the system, did the amendment, district amendment in June allow you to use alternative equipment for that purpose?
We believe the only path to complying with the new requirements is an SCR and oxidation catalyst on the back end of the engine.
But they were not there before.
That's right. It wasn't required before.
Wasn't required before. And now this requirement would allow you to give you a better chance. You could be more optimistic in reading 1110.2.
We've invested $2.3 million in this project, so we're highly confident it's going to meet the requirements.
So therefore, it's the stipulated agreement that you're going to enter into today, if it should be the case, that you have a high expectation that you'll meet those requirements based on the new design configuration.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Doctor?
In the, where it says icy engine number 1, there's a line and there's sort of this,
This thing here?
yeah, what is that?
That's the generator.
Okay.
That's,
Is
and that produces electricity that is sold to LADWP.
Gotcha, okay. All right, how frequently will the oxidation catalyst need to be replaced? And could you just sort, and what downtime does that involve?
It's, the engineering for that piece of equipment is, is such that it's a pretty brief outage to change out the media, as long as you have replacement media on hand. We're expecting that we're going to get 2 years of life, at least, out of it. We're going to be monitoring it. It could be a little more, could be a little less, but that's our expectation. But the engine would be taken offline whenever that media is changed out. It's a very brief, it's essentially in a housing that's on a shelf. You slide the old media out and you slide the new media in. It's very fast.
And the SCR, does that require a change out or any alteration periodically? I'm totally unfamiliar with
Yeah, it's the same thing. It has a, it's a noble metal-based system catalyst, and same thing. When it shows signs that it's fouling or we're losing efficiency on it, we'll have new media out there. It's readily available, and it'll be a quick change out.
And my last question is in regards to the functioning of these. There's no indication in the graph, but I'm sure it's something built in. There is monitoring of the catalyst efficiency or effectiveness, if you will, and the SCR effectiveness. Is that correct? Other than looking at what's coming out of the stack.
Yeah, well, that is the primary indicator. We're going to be looking at right here in this portion of the process. We have an online docs monitor, and we're going to be looking for trends and any variations of what's happening.
Okay, but that will that online monitor be able to distinguish the catalyst function and the SCR function?
Yeah, the catalyst is a piece of the SCR.
Gotcha, so it's all one thing?
Yes.
Okay, okay, everything is sort of boxed here, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, I understand that. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
How will you know when the carbon and the carbon polish unit needs to be changed?
We have the system came with an online real-time analyzer, and that's part of what we're going to be doing during the testing period, is validating that piece of equipment to make sure that we're comfortable it's reporting the equivalent of a laboratory result. That can also be checked with handheld measurements, watching gas in, watching gas out, but it's, we're going to be looking for signs of breakthrough on the carbon. And at earliest signs of breakthrough on the carbon, the media get changed out. And if that,
Who's going to watch the monitor?
it's part of our SCADA system. We have a SCADA system. It's an automated data tracking
So
system.
it'll alert you.
Yes, it can.
If I may, Mr. Chair, SCADA is an acronym.
Yeah,
Could
I'm
you,
sorry.
that's okay, Alan. I mean, could you explain what SCADA, do you know what SCADA stands for in terms of it? It's like a comprehensive monitoring
I say
system.
the acronym all the time. It's controls and data acquisition. I forget what the S stands for.
I think S stands for.
Supervised controls and data acquisition is what that stands for. And it's the same data that comes in for the control loops and such in the process, but it's essentially a data gathering piece of hardware, software that tracks and trends various parameters within the process so that we can see any indicators of something that's not going right.
So, and there will be alarms to alert you to that.
There are alarms, and this system is actually one that we've recently tied into a nationwide SCADA system for us. So even if it's not caught locally, the alarm gets tricked up to somebody over the local operator's head. So we're confident we'll see it.
Thank you. Any other questions from Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, I'll ask one more question. The vendor today, is that Relax Energy?
Yes, it is for the gas conditioning piece.
And before it was DCL American?
That is correct.
And they couldn't provide it, is that correct?
Well, there's the cliff notes of that story is we started talking to DCL very early on back in 2014.
Right.
And the thing that was very attractive about DCL's approach was that DCL offered something unique and that they offered a complete wraparound guarantee on the gas conditioning piece up here and the SCR, so that you didn't have a chance of one vendor pointing at another. And I guess what eventually happened with DCL is with the timeline we needed to put this project online, they were actually testing their first unit, I believe it was in North Carolina. And our issuing a purchase order to DCL was contingent upon them providing us actual data from an operating site that showed they could do it. And we hit a critical timeline where they were unable to produce that data. And we were parallel even talking to them about the guarantee, and the guarantee did not materialize like they originally told us. So we needed to change to an alternate vendor. And we issued that purchase order to Alexa back in December of 15.
Okay, the draft SCR, the district draft permit, as of September 9th, was that finalized, or do you know? That's what you're working toward.
The
The district draft permit.
I'm sorry,
to construct.
Senator, could the permit of September 9th, I'll
To construct.
defer to the district. I mean, we have a draft, we received a draft permit on July 14th. Was there was a subsequent? I'm sorry, Senator, I just,
that's all
do
right.
you have the, I don't have the permit you're referring
all
to
right.
right in front of me at the moment, so that just, and.
Let me interrupt for a moment. This is an order for abatement. It's prospective. We are where we are today. And what we need to consider is what is presented to us likely to bring the source into compliance, a source that is presently not in compliance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but I don't want to be chasing, my shadow. And that's why I'm here to obtain as much information as I can. So when a decision is made, they don't come back next month, next year, after the deadline has been established, and saying we couldn't meet that because thereof. If everything has been brainstormed or thought of early on, fine. They're saying that the district has a temporary permit, I believe. If they're working with certainty, then that's one thing. If they're working toward, huh?
Ms. Prusak?
I just want to say there's evidence now on the record that in fact, the final permit for this system has been issued by the district. So any permits that you're looking at from a past case that didn't come before us, those are not viable permits. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but the district permit that is relevant to this case has issued. It issued earlier this month, and construction has begun.
That's very good. Good to know. But what I want to say then, therefore, this company, Willix, that's the guy you're working with, the company, Energy, right?
Alexa Energy.
Willix Energy. They are going to design the equipment that's going to be incorporated in this system.
They already have. It was constructed and ready to deliver a couple of months ago. So it's ready to deliver now. The fabrication's complete and it's ready to deliver to the
So when
site.
you commence testing, you'll be testing with under the conditions of the new permit and with this new equipment that's being designed and presented to you by this company.
Yes.
And you have a confidence that you think it might work with treating it one way or another.
We have very high confidence it will work.
Very good.
Further questions from Mr. Hunt? Apparently not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross, any other witnesses?
No, Mr. Chairman, not at this time.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public who wishes to testify in this matter? I see none. Ms. Sue, you may make a closing statement.
Thank you, members of the board. As you can see here, the district and Lopez has come into agreement whereby they would expeditiously come into compliance by modifying its equipment using a front-end conditioning system and also SCR. We request that the board enter the stipulated order.
Closing, Mr. Ross.
I have nothing other than to, obviously thank the members of the board for their attention and consideration of this matter. And of course, we appreciate, on behalf of myself and my colleagues, the attention, the consideration, and the hard work of the district council and the district staff on this issue.
Thank you. Board members, fundamentally, this is a rather simple matter. On December 31st, 2016, the source was not in compliance. On December 31st, the source was in compliance with the rule as it existed and exists today. On January 1st, however, for this facility, the rule changed, new limits, tighter limits, and the source found itself out of compliance. The source has been working with, or the respondent has been working with the district and have apparently agreed to a stipulated order that requires the installation of equipment that is expected to bring the source into compliance. The individual components are not new. Oxidation catalysts have been around for quite some time. SCR has been around for quite some time. Activated carbon systems to remove organics and other compounds have been around for some time. Siloxane removal is, compared to these other components, relatively new, but all have been tried. Difference here is that SCR added to is relatively new, I guess, and based on everything that is known, district engineers as well as the respondent have high confidence that this will bring the source into compliance. It would have helped, I think, especially for the new board members to understand if the diagram had shown the existing system as it is alone, and then a separate diagram showing the items that are now being added, so the board members could see what is there now and what is planned to be put in. Based on the testimony and evidence I've heard, I believe there's good cause to adopt the proposed order.
Yeah,
Doctor?
I would, in regards to our attorney's comments about the words construction, and I was wondering if we could add the other phrase which is implicit in that, just to make it clear. I don't know if, how you all feel about this. I don't know if after the explanation that you gave, clarified this, but I think the board should think about whether that phrase should be added to or modified or left alone. Which phrase? Pardon me?
Can you state the phrase?
Hold on a sec, yeah.
I believe Doctor means condition 4A on page 6.
Is that correct?
Yes, construction, yeah, yeah. I think adding, I'm just blanked out on the word I want to use.
And installation.
And installation, yeah. I think that might be helpful. If it doesn't make it doesn't overburden the agreement with extra words. I think that would be helpful to everyone. Thank you.
Is that acceptable to the district?
Yes, the district does not object to that change.
Mr. Ross?
We have no objection, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Prusek?
I just wanted to say I can find good cause, and I think it's important that we look at the system and that we hear from witnesses that they have high confidence that it will work. But I think in this case, it's really about timing, and what we're agreeing to as part of the stipulated order for abatement is really to extend the time. And I think what the parties have been working together since 2015, when the application was put in for this system, to try and get that permit finalized. And it was the finalization of the permit that convinces me, and along with the witness testimony today, that there's high confidence that this is going to work to bring this facility into compliance. And I think there's good cause to grant this particular stipulated order with this schedule, because the facility did not apply for and pay the fee for the alternative compliance in the timely manner, which is why we're here today with the stipulated order. But I think that this very tight construction schedule, having this completed by mid-year, is within what I think is contemplated by the alternative compliance schedule. And so I think it's very reasonable, and I find good cause.
Ms. Byrd?
I also can find good cause to issue this order. I agree with my fellow board members, as well as the fact that the company has invested $2.3 million, and I think they want to see it work. So I also believe that that will be incentive to make sure everything is done in a timely manner.
Any other comments? Senator?
On 5, the target date is July 14, 2017. That slip? I mean, that's on 4, I'm sorry. Yeah, 5. Page 6,
Exhibit 5?
Of Exhibit 1?
Exhibit 1, July 14, 2017. Is that the target date for completion?
That is the target date.
Any reason to believe that would hold true or would slip?
Do you wish to reopen the hearing?
I'm just
We're
asking
in
the question.
deliberation.
Wait,
Okay.
but I could probably, there was testimony that they have confidence with the supplier that they would be able to meet the June 30th date for completion of testing and construction by May, which would mean that they would be in compliance by July 14th. But if you look on page 7, condition number 9, there is a provision where there's a possibility it could slip. However, I like the wording of it, and I think it is not just anything that could happen, but anything beyond the reasonable control of the respondents that occurs, which includes things like weather delays, but not limited to. So the respondent would have to come before this board and would have to prove beyond reasonable control to slip that date back.
So long as it's clearly understood. Mr. Chairman, I think you mentioned that this is one diagram. You mentioned there were two?
No. What I said is that it would have helped if there were two diagrams, one existing and one as it will be.
Absolutely correct. Point well made.
Any other comments? Ms. Prusak?
Just in a motion, and maybe we should ask the parties whether they're willing. Usually in our orders for abatement, there are two conditions, and not really conditions, but they're numbered paragraphs put into our order that aren't in the current order and that I would like to see put in it. Number 1 being what is normally sort of, we call it boilerplate for the hearing board, that the hearing board may modify the order for abatement without the stipulation of the parties upon a showing of good cause, therefore, and upon making the findings required by Health and Safety Code, Section 42451A and District Rule 806A. Any modification of the order shall be made only at a public hearing held upon 10 days published notice and appropriate written notice to respondent. And essentially, it's just restating the rules, Health and Safety Code and the District Rule, that we would, in a stipulated order, we do not need to make a finding of violation. But would we choose to modify this order in the future, and it's not stipulated upon by the parties, we could do so if we make a finding of violation only.
Is that acceptable to the district?
We have no objection to that change.
Mr. Ross?
We have no objection, Mr. Chair.
You had a second one?
Yes, and similarly, we normally have essentially boilerplate language, but with meaning, that this order for abatement is not and does not act as a variance, and respondent is subject to all rules and regulations of the district and to the applicable provisions of California law. Nothing herein shall be deemed or construed to limit the authority of the district to issue notices of violation or to seek civil penalties, criminal penalties, or injunctive relief, or to seek further orders for abatement or other administrative or legal relief.
That appears in the conclusion.
Oh, it does? Did I miss that? I apologize. Oh, but
It's item 2.
I still would like it to be part of the order. Maybe we could
Yeah,
move it
sure,
from
yes.
conclusions to the order?
And while we're on that, the first conclusion, there's no basis for it in the findings, and really, I think it should be a finding rather than a conclusion. Ms. Sue, is the district okay with those two?
There's no objection from the district.
Mr. Ross?
No objection, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? We're going to go off the record for a second, so I can check I dotted some Ts and crossed some Is when I was looking at the earlier version of the stipulated order, so I want to go through and see if you caught the same ones I caught. Okay, we're off the record. We're back on the record. Looking at page 6, condition number 6, it says respondent shall within 7 calendar days of the end of each month report, etc. But it doesn't say when the first one. I think we would assume that the end of the first month after the order is issued.
Correct.
Okay. Any problem with putting those words in?
No objection from the district.
Mr. Ross?
Just so I'm clear, Mr. Chair, so that would mean that the first report would be due 7 days from the end of
January.
January.
That okay?
That's, okay, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Page 7. I'll start at reading at line 9. Says increments of progress as set forth in condition number 4 due to reasons beyond their control. And we're talking about the respondent, so I would prefer the word its control.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. On page 7, line 10, the word there changed to its. It's referring to respondent. Okay. There's no further comment in the matter of. Oh, I didn't. Did I? I did? Yes, I did. Just before I asked for the thank you.
Could I make one comment? Could we make sure to attach what is now been numbered Exhibit 6 to the end of whatever order you choose to enter? It's that it talks about it's part of the permit. It talks about condition 7.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll make the motion and then ask Ms., and if I get a second, I'll ask Ms. Prusek to help me with the words to, and where to insert them. Okay. I'll give you time to think it. Okay. In the matter of South Coast Air Quality Management District versus M.M. Lopez Energy LLC, case 4910-3, I move that we adopt the stipulated order for abatement as set forth in Exhibit 1 with the following changes. On the first page, in the caption, the word proposed is deleted, as well as on the footer of that page and every succeeding page. On page 5. The first conclusion is moved into the findings section to become finding number 18. Yep. You see the conclusion? Conclusion number 1? Okay. And that, we just moved that up a little bit to follow finding number 17, which starts on page 4, and it will now be finding 18. Also on page 5, conclusion 2, is moved to page 7, and it will be inserted after condition 10. And it's not a, it will not have a number since it's not a condition, it's simply a statement of what this is. Conclusions 3 and 4 are renumbered to be conclusions 1 and 2. On page 6, line 7, after the word, line 7, after the word construction, we insert the words and installation. Page 6 again, line 11, after the word month, insert the words after the issuance of this order. On page 7, line 10, delete the word there, insert the word its. That concludes my motion. Is there a second? Number, where? Well, let's make the, get a second, then we'll
I'll
amend it.
second, and I'll second. And number 3 on page 6, where it says commence construction, did you want to leave that as construction, or should that say and installation? What was the intent?
I think that one is supposed to remain construction.
Okay.
Okay, we have a second, and then Ms. Sue needed some wording so that we make Exhibit A, excuse me, Exhibit 6 part of the order. Ms. Trusay?
Yes, I have 3 changes. So one would be that, and just so I understand exactly. So we're talking about on page 6 in condition 7, is that correct? Is that where you want to reference?
Correct. Page 6, paragraph 6B references condition number 7, which is part of what was at one point called Exhibit A. So I just want to make sure that that is attached.
I think it's exhibit 6.
Now it's Exhibit 6, so we
Right.
would also
Oh.
need to change
Okay.
that wording.
Okay,
Attached, okay, so just, okay. just
so
change
that's the
6.
only change we need to make.
And then, oh,
Do we have other change?
yes.
Okay.
Maybe it would be best instead of, in the jurisdiction, instead of saying over this matter for 1 year from the date of this order for abatement is issued, to say January 25th, 2018.
Oh, yeah.
That is on page 7, last paragraph, or second to last paragraph.
And add, and I'll accept those 2 changes, and also, and Ms. Byrd, that okay by you?
Yes.
Okay, and also I would like to add to the order the two paragraphs that Ms. Prusek read into the record that we may modify the order, and the other one that the other one is not needed.
No, the other one's no longer needed. Okay, so just to be clear, so after, you have put in the paragraph that previously was under conclusions, number 2, regarding, this is not a variance. That goes right after condition 10.
Correct.
And then the following paragraph then would be the paragraph I read into the record, which is common among all of our orders regarding the hearing board's ability to modify the order for abatement.
Correct. Okay. All those changes, okay by you, Ms. Byrd?
Yes.
Okay. Any further comments, deliberation? Senator?
I notice that you have Exhibit 1 with tabs. I just got mine this morning. Exhibit 1, yours have,
No, we.
you all just got it this morning?
If you're talking about this,
Yeah.
this is what we received before today.
Oh, no, this morning?
No. This is what we received this morning.
Oh, okay. Thumbs up.
There's no further comment, deliberation. Dr. Lerner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Prusak?
Yes.
Senator?
Holman, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Well, I should make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon me?
And I'm not conflicted because it's the new function. But I was, as an elected official, a lead advocate to close Lopez Canyon. So, but there's no conflict, so I can vote with a clear conscience.
Okay, yeah. Motion passes 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business board members? Good job. Did you have a comment?
I'd just like to thank both groups, both parties. A person who's had about 50 years' experience dealing with research topics and presentation. I think clarity, diagrams, keeping things simple, especially for us new members and those of us who are not engineers or attorneys. I think that's the essence of getting work done here more efficiently. And I would appreciate that to the district and I hope, frankly, never see you guys again. Come back and be clear, be precise, about more than I am right now. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I may say that Dr. Lerner is the doctor. I am an engineer, Dr. Lerner. And number one.
I stand corrected, I forgot that. I always thought you were a politician.
Well, I can be more than one thing at the same time. But I sure want to compliment these young people who are really assuming the position that they are assuming for this district and for this community. I feel very confident that it's in good hands. We don't have to worry about this community or our country anymore with people like you on the job. I just want to compliment you, I really do.
We're adjourned.
And most of those young people.
All right. You did it, you pulled it off before noon, you said
Yeah.
it.
Could have finished by 10:30.
Oh, I think we could have. Thank you.
So even if I was to put a alternate, I could put a alternate 50 and I can get you a greater result.
Hey, man, look at that. Adjourned for the day.
Go make some money now.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, so I was thinking,
This is gonna be its last rodeo.
How are we for next week?
Back home, bring it back.
Not checked, sorry.
so do you think this out?
She did for me, put it back in there.
Seen a lot of adventure, hundreds of non-closing.
I was just, all I'm asking is the same condition as
With the dog,
I just wanted to match and we can share data.
can't do all this stuff overnight.
Yeah. And so because the triggers are not that accurate, it's just it gets pretty long.
Speak for yourself. So speak for yourself.
Yeah, please write it out. I think that makes it clear for everyone.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all. Good job. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, we got some stuff from Sunshine, an email from that one guy. Were you able to read the stuff last night from Sunshine? So you read that? Okay. So this is something else, but I haven't gone over it, but he's basically saying that the implementation have yet to be seen. He's saying in this email that the results have yet to be seen. So of course you need to, read it more thoroughly, but
I will. Hey, you have a good evening.
oh, you too. Have a good weekend. You too. Thanks, Rebecca. All right. So I went and got some good information over there. Some ladies. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it at lunch. Just some stuff, public stuff. Because there's no public stuff out there. Only stuff that's out there is in Spanish. All the stuff's behind her.
You calm down, I tell you, but
But he was still over there rolling his eyes. He said he was still over there rolling his eyes at you. Oh, you want to go up this way? You just have to watch the videos and see his body. Just going way over here.
whose eyes are rolling?